So, thank you, Mike. Look, you can say what you like about me, but my final instruction to you, and it's one that we have to give to you a lot, is leave the staff out of it and respect the fact that they are basically...
see, that's a whole mentality.
Well, it's
that's
not,
what ratepayers
no, just hang on. All we ask for those around the chamber is it's always open season on me and anyone else in the chamber within the standing orders. And that's where it stops, please. Right,
no,
order.
It doesn't stop.
Order,
there.
please. Right, now, Councillor Alf.
Thank you, Your Worship. I firstly want to acknowledge, and I'm talking about both Arthur and I's local boards in the Manukau ward. I want to acknowledge Lydia Sosene, the Chair of Māngere o Tāhuhu. I also want to acknowledge Whanana Fessel Collins. And the reason I want to acknowledge them is because they have contacted me directly to give their support in regards to where I will end up voting today. So I say thank you to them, because 16.9% is what's going to happen in Māngere o Tāhuhu. 16.9. 2 months ago I got taken to task, well, both Arthur and I got taken to task by our local board in regards to why I ended up voting for that 16.9. I justified that through the transport levy. I explained to them at least, and I want to thank the staff at this juncture. I want to thank the staff because as a result of talking to the staff and around the financial sort of calculations around the 16.9, I was better for myself to understand where it came to 16.9. So I say thank you to the staff in regards to that. What I explained to them, it's around our lower value from our homes, is why our interest rate around that levy is so high. Your Worship, I also want to say thank you to Councillor Cashmore. One is because you fronted up and you said to us, I was the one that went to the Mayor and said $99 levy. So I say thank you to you.
I don't say you're welcome.
Can I just at least finish, Wayne, please? So I say thank you to you, because I also know during this whole long-term plan process that there were councillors that approached yourself, Your Worship, and asked that 3.5 be your proposal. I mean, they approached you as a result of the local boards coming through with the letter they did. They approached you, those councillors approached you. As a result, you ended up changing from 2.5 to 3.5. I don't hear those councillors saying that I was one of them that approached you. Your Worship, I'm not going to talk about what our Auditor General was telling us around the you know, what could happen if we don't adopt the long-term plan. But I do, however, want to mention one thing that she said, and that was the number one on her list, was community. And it is about the community. This is why I ended up voting for the targeted levy rate, but also for the long-term plan in May. Because I looked at Tamaki Makaurau. I looked at it as an area and where I, as a councillor, would put my councillor's hat on and end up saying we need the long-term plan as what we have in front of us to move forward. I'm not going to repeat, Your Worship, the transport issues that have been canvassed by the councillors around here. I do, however, Your Worship, want to mention some of the stuff that if this doesn't go through, some of the stuff that will end up not really being committed to. That is from the $400,000 within the existing budget. I don't know what's going to happen to that in regards to the hydrodynamic modelling. I don't know what's going to happen to that. I don't know what's going to happen with the $300,000 OPEX in 2015, the $100,000 OPEX in 2016, the $600,000 CAPEX in 2017 for the World War I memorial. I don't know what's going to happen if it doesn't pass. I don't know what's going to happen with the $350,000 for 2015, 2016 for the James Wallace Trust. I don't know what's going to happen to that. I don't know what's going to happen with the $360,000, 2015, 2016, and $110,000 for 2017 for the emergency housing, homelessness, and the rough sleeping response, across Auckland. I don't know, because those are things that are dear to my heart, and I know definitely dear to Councillor Casey's heart. Always has been, and I have no doubt that it's been dear to her heart in the 21 years that she's been in Auckland Council. I don't know what happens with when we end up bringing forward. I don't think we can bring forward the Meadowbank Community Centre upgrade. I don't know. I really don't. And hopefully after the 1st of July, depending on how we go here.
You're good, Al.
I mean, the 72,000 per annum for the Auckland Festival, I don't know what's going to happen to them. So, Your Worship, this 16.9 in Māngere o Tāhuhu has been one of the most, I think it's one of the decisions that I have sort of gone backwards and forwards with, especially with the Manukau ward and especially with Māngere o Tāhuhu. So, Your Worship, I will be supporting this. I want the projects and the initiatives that I have been talking about. I want those fulfilled. I want those to go through to the long-term plan. And so for me, and again, I just leave my last comment to say thank you to the chair of the Māngere o Tāhuhu Local Board and the chair of the Otara Papatoetoe Local Board. Thank you, Your Worship.
Good, Alf. Hopefully last. Want to speak?
Yep.
Okay. Second to last speaker, Councillor Christine.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In a funny way, I'm really glad that the targeted transport rate, which again I support here today, and I'll give you my reasons why, because it's actually flushed up the wider issues that for too long we have ignored as a council. I'm generally a positive person, but since the beginning of this term of council, I've been so frustrated by our failure to prioritise that I've ended up voting against all of the major documents that have come before us, because like Councillor Darby, what motivated me to stand for this council was to see through some projects that were really dear to my heart, to see through some of those public transport links and some of the environmental initiatives that I really believe are critically important for Auckland looking out into the future. But what we're having a discussion about here today is about our failure to prioritise. So when we came to the Auckland plan, you know, we put everything we possibly could think of into that plan, and when people like Dick Quacks and I said, well, how are we going to pay for it? Oh, don't worry about that, don't worry about that. And we rambled our way through that, and we've rambled our way through all sorts of economic development initiatives, emergency housing, whitewater rafting. I could go on and on and on. But, you know, Mr. Mayor, why I think we're at this tipping point here today, and why I feel particularly uncomfortable in not being able to support the staff today with my vote, is because we squandered our political capital in that first term by saying yes to everything. We didn't prioritise. And there's been spectacular disinterest into the plight of those who are carrying those huge general rates increases. Those people don't trust us anymore. And why you're seeing such tension is because they know that we are not that trustworthy, and they are sick of being treated as an ATM. And it really makes me sad, because there were two messages that came out of the consultation, and we've all agreed in one way or another that we could have actually done better on the consultation. I would argue we could do so much more in consulting genuinely with the public on what the role of local government is. But whether we did a good job or whether we did a bad job, there were two messages for me. And like Councillor Quacks, I was told that we weren't allowed to conduct those sessions. You know, we were to sit and listen to what the public had to say, and I attended 15. But the public did tell us they wanted progress on transport, and they also told us they couldn't meet any more rates increases, that they were really struggling, they were holding on just. But that was a message that we just didn't appear to want to hear. Looking at Lydia, who's just about to leave, the chair of the Otahuhu board, I want to acknowledge her, because when we have discussed some of those initiatives that we want to see, like the interchange at Otahuhu, when we have, and we've got Andy Baker here celebrating his 50th birthday today, we know that Pukekohe and the South, and I applaud Callum and I applaud Bill for their courage in talking about the growth that is coming to the South. We know we need these things. We know that we need the renewals in our roading. We know that we are going to have to support special housing area. All of these things have been well documented. So I am so frustrated that we have squandered our political capital, because when it comes to that, it's probably why the government hasn't delivered what we need. And nobody comes out of this well today. The government certainly doesn't come out of this well. If they'd given us a petrol tax, if they'd given us some tools, and I personally prefer a petrol tax than a road tolling, because I think it is a simpler form of being able to get that revenue without huge administration costs associated with it. But we do need to make progress on that transport stuff. But the message that has come through to me is we will support that, but we are not going to support your massive general rates increases year after year after year when you have shown no discipline at all in terms of funding. And I cannot vote for this budget today. I know the pain in my community, and I'm pleased that you're all having a discussion now about whether we should or we shouldn't support the LTP, because when we were debating this 3 years ago, it was, oh, well, you know, all of those people who are living in the leafy suburbs of Auckland, you know, they can just all pay a bit more. There's this assumption that somehow if you're in a wealthy house, you know, piece of land, you've got the income to accompany it. Well, the reality is that they don't. And we have penalised the seniors in our community. And I've heard from the CEO that he is going to do all sorts of things in terms of postponement, and that's admirable. But what are we doing to actually prune back expenditure in the first place? And that is where I think we have actually failed Aucklanders. So with great regret, I cannot support this today. And Mr. Mayor, I would implore you, I would really implore you to have the courage, should this go through today, and I hope that it doesn't, because sometimes you need a crisis to spur the changes that need to happen. And I think the government need to see us being willing to have that discussion around prioritisation. Some of the things that Chris Darby has said, I have canvassed with him. The issue about where the line should be in terms of what central government should be funding on state highways, or all of these sorts of things. But to get that dialogue going, there's got to be trust. And I think we have been big spenders, and the chickens have come home to roost. And I tell you, the public of Auckland have had a gutsful. The trust has gone, and I am very frustrated. We've had the Auckland plan, we've had the unitary plan. Again, Dick Quacks and I implored the CEO at that time to tell us what it was all going to cost. Oh, no, look, it's fine. We'll pace momentum. We want to get on with things. Well, there comes a day of reckoning, and I think that's today. And I hope that we can spend more time when we all come together talking about that prioritisation than all of the many other distractions that we can find for ourselves. So this rate increase will hurt our communities, it will hurt our elderly, it will hurt those young people who have, by grit and determination, saved for a deposit to get into the housing market. And we all know what the average price of a house is in Auckland now, and we all know how that's going to translate in terms of capital valuation going out into the future. I know that this decision today is going to mean a lot of women can't stay at home with their children. They're going to have to go out and get that second job in order to be able to meet the rates increases. I know the pain that this will inflict on our community, and sir, it's unacceptable, and therefore I cannot vote for this today.